One.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with my boy Petey. Say what's up, Petey.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Hey, long time no see you. We're back in the studio. Today we're going to be discussing probably one of the saddest episodes I've read in a while, the fall of Ms. Marvel.
Yep.
You know, one of the reasons we're picking this up now, and normally we don't follow Marvel, Ms. Marvel, has been I said controversy, quote unquote. I guess is it controversy or I don't know, what do you call this?
It's
What's
kinda-
happening with her? You know, they've done some major changes, but first off, I just want to give credence to the episode. I mean, to this issue. You know, Miss Marvel died in Spider-Man 26. She basically died saving the world. A lot of people, supposedly other people, not supposedly people, she died and the character Miss Marvel. But here, people don't know that Miss Marvel and Kamala Khan are the same person, right? I mean, a lot of people don't know. Of course, her friends know who she is, but they're having a ceremony in the mosque, and it's very interesting in how they're handling the grief with different people. We have various characters coming in. We have her friends. We have her family. You know, they're reading the Quran, and the poignancy about this is that it just basically tells us it's just people coming to remember people. You know what I'm trying to say? And it is. I think it's so important. It doesn't matter the culture that you're in. We just want to remember the good in those who were with us before, and I think that's a very important thing there. We have the family and how they're grieving amongst themselves. You know, we also have, like I said, her friends, and they're all coming to follow the tradition. No one's there complaining about, hey, you're doing this. This is not the way you're supposed to do it. They're all being respectful. They're taking off their shoes. They're asked to read part of the Quran, and that's what everybody's doing. We see, what is this, the Red Dagger, I believe his name is, from the Pakistani
Oh, was he?
superhero.
Yeah, okay.
He comes up to, he's there, he shows his face. I don't know how he got here.
Well, look at this. We can't look past the Wolverine shot up top of Wolverine at this thing because obviously he's the more popular character. Keep going. I'm sorry. I just had to add that
Right,
in
I mean,
there.
in fact, the pastor, what do you call him, the imam thinks he's like, when he comes in, he's like, he said, "Salaikum, what is that? Salaikum salam, salam salaikum." I'm sorry, I hope if I mangled that, you know. But, you know, they think, hey, are you a Muslim? You know, the way he's dressed with the whole, you know. So
Now you're going to now when Guardian passed, Wolverine didn't connect with Heather at that point. He stayed on the side with a cigar, but not one being a loner. And this is say how far Wolverine has gone to now he's just knows what how
culturally appropriate.
Culturally appropriate. Because when Guardian died, Wolverine seemingly is at the funeral, and the burial, but he doesn't really show up till issue 15, where she's in the hospital.
Right. So it's interesting. I mean, and you were saying when they show up with how they handle the death of some other characters too.
Well, going into because Mars had pointed out like all of the positives of how they handle. You can talk about what you had there about Iron Man.
Right. And so we see Iron Man also. He also comes into the funeral service, and it's a bunch of different stories. Not that many, like 2 or 3.
Okay, wait. Let's stick with this for now before I go to my thing. We have Captain Marvel with the Hajib on, right?
Yes.
She's being respectful, that sort of thing. And then you also pointed out
Don't forget the champions.
the champions show up there.
You know.
And what's the other key to the passing? Who else passed besides Miss Marvel?
Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. She passes.
And tell that people don't really.
Right, and people don't know her secret identity, that Kamala Khan was Miss Marvel. So they're grieving both for her family, but they're also grieving for the superhero, Miss Marvel, which is very interesting that, the secret identity, like imagine if Peter Parker, should pass away. Most people just wouldn't know who Peter Parker that is, and so you have that issue. So you want to bring something about Iron Man, as you were saying?
Well, you were bringing up the Iron Man takes off his boots and this thing, right?
Right. To be very respectful of the culture, he takes off his boots, Because when you enter a mosque, you're supposed to take off your shoes, and you have a whole conversation between him and Doctor Strange. You have Captain America shows up and stuff. It's just interesting how you just have everybody basically, they're in character, and they're talking about how this affects them. going forward. She was young. Then you have this villain who shows up, and he's trying to do his, the villain thing, and all the heroes come out. I think you've seen that before in other places where all the heroes show up like, "Hey, you better stop this."
Yeah. So I would just say this is the moment that they try to have, and this is how artists can change a plot, right? Look at the big poster, which they would call anchor shot, to sell the page of Spider-Man, but then they have this poignant thing where he takes off the clothing and he shows up respectfully as Peter Parker. Now, I almost wish...
Late. He's late.
But I would almost wish that all of the heroes came in their regular attire, just showing their respects. Obviously, since Cap has his mask off, he might as well show up Iron Man. All of their identities are out, so having these moments where someone's showing up and getting out of their outfits to come up and show, and maybe having Wolverine outside of the thing but not going in type of deal, that sort of thing seemed to be more. But he's not a loner anymore. He's more a group, a joiner, so he can show up and be friendly. Whereas he used to be not the guy you want around. He's like gruff, and he's kind of SOB, so he would say something stupid. So that's one thing that's kind of lost with the characters, but
changed, not lost. Changed with the character. Changed the character.
At the same time, we have these moments which I just think there's a difference between having a funeral like X-Men 138, which turned into an album type of issue, which went through the history of X-Men, but the original X-Men and the original X-Men are all in suits. In Alpha Flight, when Guardian died, they're all in suits. They're not necessarily showcasing their powers. They're in tears. They're all in black, that sort of thing. So one thing you try to remember, the death of Captain Marvel was a little more comic booky, but the end part of it was that the heroes, that he meets Thanos, and they don't have a big fight. They have a point where Thanos is like, no, we are both dead, so we're going to, go together in death. And this is because he's a character who's, into death, so it works. And that was a very powerful scene. So I can allow for the comic bookiness of having all these characters that might not know Captain Marvel and show up to this thing. But at the same time, that's what you want to make. You want to make sure, are you doing the comic book or are you doing like the Marvel type of thing where you have a big fight and then you have a funeral at the end? So,
but I agree with you there. I think that's a very good point. But getting back to the small moments, like Peter Parker in character, coming late to the funeral itself, right? And he's meeting the parents. Remember, she was an intern over at Oscorp.
You're trying to get on my nerves with him being connected to Oscorp. But keep going, okay?
Right, and the fact that he's there. I mean, it's Peter Parker. He's not always on time. He's busy running from place to place. It's just perfect Peter Parker. But one thing that
Peter Parker was showing up after the thing is over with, and then saying
it can't be that bad.
That's his luck. That's Parker luck, and they're like, no, you want to go that far? There you go.
But here, talking about this, the death of Jean Grey. What about that? When she died, how the X-Men handled the death of Jean Grey. I know there was a whole process of it going through.
Well, they didn't have. It was a comic book that had the history of the X-Men, so it was a funeral, and the way Claremont and Byrne handled it was just the X-Men kind of looking on and Cyclops reflecting. So it's a funeral. You don't really see a service, but they have the flashback through the entire history. And you can see other writers have kind of used that framework, especially Jeff Loeb, have done it for a passing character and then do a story around the arc of their person's romance of Karen Page, I think Mary Jane, Betty Ross. They've done this sort of thing where they do an arc around this. But that framework comes from Claremont and Byrne saying, instead of doing like a fill-in, why don't we do a history using the funeral, which would be boring, around the comic book. So you don't have boring moments. You don't have to have Wolverine do something cool because you're going to have all these flashbacks. So it was a kind of a mix of both, where you have just, you have a scene where, say, you're a Cyclops and I'm Angel, and you have a close-up on Angel, and Angel really looks sad, and Cyclops is like, he loved Jean just like me type of moment. So, but then nothing is said. No one has talked about it outside of Lilandra leaving this sort of futuristic a hologram globe to Jean's parents. So, which was kind of a thing where, so that was a more comic booky thing because it gives this future thing that had all of Jean's memories, and it was almost as if it was, you could experience Jean's entire life in it. So, yeah, but that's different from this where they do the comic book moments through the flashback. This one is saying, hey, we don't trust that you're going to buy this book. So here we got the guys in costumes, so you know who they are.
Oh my goodness!
Type of
I
deal.
totally disagree with that. I think that
No,
a lot of these characters you don't know them outside of.
But that's the thing.
You
That's
don't
the
know
thing
them.
that Frank Miller was saying about Byrne, even though he was early in his career, saying he routinely took the characters out of the costume and you could still recognize them.
Right, but I'm saying, but here a lot of these characters didn't know that she was Kamala Khan. They just knew her as Ms. Marvel. So
Do they have regular clothes though?
they're superheroes. How often do you see superheroes in regular clothes? Not
You
very
want
often.
them to be real. So what are they doing? Are they in their clubhouse? They're Are they the Legion of Superheroes? Or are they Marvel heroes where they go have regular identities, put on regular clothes, go to dinner and do regular stuff?
Well, I don't see them doing regular stuff in most of
Okay,
the things.
then there you go. There we go. They stay in costume.
They
That's
stay in
fine. That's all I have to say.
Okay,
That's all I have to
so
say.
that's all it is. So, and I guess to me, like I said, this was a very poignant story. I think it was done very well. The 3 parts, and I think, and let me just give credit is Willow Wilson, Mark Wade, and Saladin Ahmed. And the artist. Art was really good. The coloring was really good. Look, one of the things I got to say, whenever I go into a comic and we have disagreements about this, if I can't get into the art, if I can't get into the coloring, I just cannot read it. The story can be the greatest story in the world.
It's hard to tell what he likes.
So, hey, I say go out and get it if you can. If you're really interested, get it.
So is that it? It's over.
But
We'll never see her again, even though she's going to be in the Marvels. This is so sad.
But what
How
happens
did this happen?
A couple of weeks later, boom!
Oh,
Hellfire Gala. There she is.
And who's
right
on
here
the cover? She's on the cover. But
she's on the cover.
The other trick is they knew in the Ms. Marvel comic book it might not sell, but if you put it in a Spider-Man comic book, that would increase the
okay.
Yeah. So you always there'd be something connecting her because her book hasn't really sold that well. So if you want to have the death, and if they were going to keep with it, they would have something that would be an heirloom. But let's get into this book now.
Yeah. So she died in the Spider-Man comic, Spider-Man 26. She's remembered in Fallen Friend. Love the cover, by the way. And then, boom, she is back in the Hellfire Gala number 3. This is actually issue 1. And as you know, Hellfire Galas happen every year in Krakoa. The Hellfire Galas, basically help to announce the new X-Men team that's shown to the world.
I do not like this at all.
They invite people from all over the world to come. Of course, there's always some crazy thing that happens. But right off on the very first page, what do we find out? We have the White Queen and Emma Frost, and we have our friend Cyclops, and they're right then and there saying, hey.
They're sitting in a tree.
Cerebro's basically
Kissing.
And Cerebro's basically saying, they're saying that they discovered fairly recently that Miss Marvel is a mutant. She's an Inhuman and she's a mutant. And they're like, how did you miss her? It's just like, the Inhuman thing came out first. And so because she's a mutant and you were from Krakoa, they backstop you, I guess, or copy all of you, so that if something should happen to you, you can be resurrected. And
so
guess
did
what
they
happened?
only bring back the mutant part of her?
Ba-boom. You see, she comes out of the egg, and she is there, right?
What if she just had the mutant genome, but she doesn't have any powers?
Well, that's the thing. They said we know the biggest problem. What they call that bigger problem? The bigger powers that she has, the embiggening power. That's her Inhuman gene. The question is, what is her mutant gene? So right now, this is opening up all kinds of possibilities for the future.
Okay, so I'm going to put my editor hat on, right? And I say, let's go through Marvel history. And at some point, Quicksilver, who's an Avenger in the former Brotherhood of Evil Mutants with Magneto, and Crystal, who was an Inhuman, a part of the royal family, they married, they had a child together, and the mutant and the Inhuman genes canceled out in their child Luna. So they've established what happens when you match up an Inhuman with a mutant, which both have a basis in humanity. When those genes match up, it turns normal.
Okay, so I'm going to point
It
out.
turns normal.
So what I'll point out
So
is
it
that.
turns to the right and say, she should be normal.
So, like I would say, whenever you have within a family, it is very possible to have people who do have mutation, who have the mutant gene, and they become mutants, and there are others who don't. So, in this example, it was canceled, Luna, but I guarantee that, as we can now see by the great writers and publishers of Marvel, that it no longer happens. It's possible that you can also be both an Inhuman and a mutant. Okay? So we're not really going to go into the Hellfire Gala, but we're just going to give a brief synopsis because we're really talking about Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and what's happening to her. Basically, the party's crashed. The new
The
X-Men
lame
team,
X-Men.
the
These
new-
X-Men,
the
they
new
only have
X-Men
one
team.
character you know is not going to die. Who's a juggernaut.
the new X-Men comes out. The team is basically
But
destroyed.
why? If they
Nimrod,
brought back,
Orchis, and
they
I-
brought back Kamala Khan, how does the X-Men die?
So Scott steps back, Jean Grey steps back. The point of it, I think, to me, the reason they brought in Kamala Khan is that in this issue, which we'll probably do a further review, is that you're going to see the fact that they've cut down the amount of mutants that there are. A lot of them are killed or lost, in essence. And so because of that, I think now, having Kamala Khan in there, now she's probably going to be a bigger part of the team. She probably will be a bigger member of the X-Men team going forward. And so that is my thought of what's going on.
It feels like Firestar when Spider-Man and Amazing Friends were out, and they decided, how do we get the X-Men in here? Let's say that I was an X-Men, and I cringed so badly when that happened. No, the other thing
What about Dazzler? You didn't cringe then?
when she became an X-Men?
Yeah.
The problem with that was there was a mutant massacre, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we felt it was a massacre of the what's those guys, the Morlocks. I didn't know they were going to kill off, or at least sideline the X-Men. And they said meet the new X-Men. I said in a massacre, that means we're going to lose some X-Men. So which was a sad moment. But Dazzler was in there. She wasn't the character she was in the Dazzler comic. The Dazzler comic, she had the spunk of Spider-Man or Iron Man, because they both have like the little engine that could type of feel where they could almost get beaten, but then they find some gumption to do it. She had some beat, but then look at this. She's one of the people who gets killed, right? Yeah, come on. If you look at the Dazzler comic book, I think the art is by Mike Vosberg. Like, she goes up against Rogue, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. She's a character that, is doing her best, and she becomes a Herald of Galactus for 2 seconds. Does better than, oh my God, look at this, we're doing the Iceman.
Focus on the show, bro. Focus.
So I can't, this killing of mutants, and of course the Juggernaut doesn't get killed because of course he can't be killed. But then the gala's still going on. They don't know that this stuff is happening.
Focus on what you're saying, man.
Ultimately, the way you just asked me about the other thing. Is that Iron Man? All right, look, ultimately, I think isn't Kevin Feige running the comic books too?
Yes, Kevin Feige is on the
So
comics.
you're saying, hey, we got her as a mutant. We're going to put her with the mutants. But she's already probably going to be an experienced character, so she's going to have to be in the X-Men. And then she's going to be walking around like what's his name? She's going to be walking around like Spider-Man. Oh, wow, cool. Oh, my God, cool. Oh, my God, cool. And it's like every kid is going to be that way, where Spider-Man would be like insulting everybody.
It's actually a good point you brought up there that, Kevin Feige does run Marvel Comics now along with Marvel Studios. And the fact that now, of course, she's had her own series, and that series that they had on TV, they consciously copied the Spider-Man movies. They basically said that. They wanted to have as much. Yeah, they literally said that. The producer said they wanted to copy the feel of the Spider-Man movies, someone with wonder, someone who's in there. And so that's what they've done. I mean, if you look at it and you compare it to the Spider-Man movies, you'll see what we're talking about.
Well,
and so now, the point I'm trying to make is that it's pretty interesting because you brought up a point that, Marvel is trying to bring in the X-Men mutants in Phase 5.
yes.
And so why not utilize a character who will be popular in that phase, like
Is she
X-Men?
popular yet?
I don't know. Well, they've identified her as probably a character that they can put in and possibly make a difference in the X Men. I assume, and of course, Feige, if that's your plan, it is absolutely brillianto.
Okay.
Okay, bringing in a character from the TV show, making them into the movies, and now back in the
They
comic
the
in
said
the X Men. Great job, Feige. Woohoo, baby! That's why you the man.
that's
You know.
look. I'm gonna say this to you, right? Basically, this is Feige. Ms. Marvel is Feige's Inhumans. If Ike had the Inhumans, Ms. Marvel, you could also say Secret Invasion, but Ms. Marvel is his too big to fail, right? So she got the teaser. They made a big deal about her because they were feeling like the energy after, introducing her as a mutant in a TV show, they would put her in there, but not realizing they had $1 billion film in Captain Marvel. So when they did the real trailer, it was mostly Captain Marvel with the big subplot of Kamala Khan. So in my mind, they're just establish her as best you can. And it was cool when we had like Kitty Pryde be the one, but you can't do Kitty Pryde turning the storm and being wide-eyed and being like
Anymore.
because you already got Kamala Khan, you already had Spider-Man. There's no how many times can you do that arc where you're introducing a kid to the heroes where Spider-Man was different. Spider-Man had all these things to worry about. So when Spider-Man meets the other heroes, outside of seeing the thing punch a ship out into like the ocean and being like, wow, most of the time he went to the Fantastic Four and be like, hey, I got things, I'm here to impress you guys. So this is what happens when you look at this. This is too, and I started my original point of saying they're doing a lot of things.
You got lost in the original point, I think.
I'm saying they're doing a lot of things with Kamala Khan. I said they're too big to fail. So I'm going back to that. So you can see them doing stuff here. They got the Marvels going on. And at the same time, we don't know that this is going to make it into something. If they're planning to get rid of Brie Larson for Kamala Khan.
No. I don't think that's it. I think
You don't know.
No, bro, I think we just realized what happened. You came up, you had such a brilliant moment, almost genius, and you lost it. Okay, it's like, poof. But what I'm saying is that when you said that brilliant moment, when you said, that Feige was bringing in her with the X-Men, and I said, wow, he's so right.
talking about
He's setting her up to be a part of the X-Men in the movies and TV.
No.
I'm not asking whether you want. The brilliant sorcerer himself.
Oh my
Feige,
gosh.
you said it, and I'm like, yo.
Oh,
Once in a while, the clock strikes is correct twice a day. Remember, always forget that. And so what I'm saying is that he had it right. He is so right.
That was one of my points, and then I had
a
another point after that too. So
yeah,
stop it.
No, but I'm just saying that was a very good point.
No, but then you said poof. F out of here with that nonsense.
But I'm just saying,
laughing at his own jokes or my reaction to his jokes.
And you're laughing at it too. So
I'm not laughing at that joke.
I see that big Kool-Aid smile on your face.
Not happy.
I can see you on the
Not
screen.
happy. So let's close this out.
No, I'm saying no. The next stop is before we close it out is what do you think is happening? Why would Feige do something like this? The mutants are supposed to be in Phase 5. We know Wolverine shows up in Deadpool. Who is going to be there in the new X-Men? We can't have Kitty Pryde. If we follow the whole House of X, Powers of X stuff, Kitty Pryde, as we've seen, she's older, she's a fighter, she's doing all kinds of stuff. She leads her own team. But, if you want that wide-eyed, doe, happy-go-lucky girl who wants to go into some of these things, the person who would be perfect for this is Kamala Khan. And in addition, now that she's a mutant, now they can decide we want to power her up a little bit. We know her power has to be something similar either between Photon and Captain Marvel, somewhere in that realm, because they're kind of related. So, I think, Feige, why you're the Gandalf of this generation, I have no idea.
No.
But you do.
At the same time, let's say, if I'm looking after my initial reaction to the TV show, my issues now just land on what they did to the clandestine, right? So they kind of screwed them up. But her character, even though too extra wide-eyed, which they did with, as you said, but looking at it again, they don't have her. They have her failing and making mistakes a lot, which is fine. Which is what I didn't notice. I thought that she was doing things the wrong way a lot of times. But at the same time, when she was with her parents, she wasn't necessarily remorseful. She was like they were keeping her from it. So I was kind of like, oh, but she did make the mistake. She's not accepting it. So that makes it more teenage. But if you bring her into the X-Men and you have Cyclops, Wolverine,
we won't have
Nightcrawler, all these guys, and then you have Kamala Khan.
No. I think it's going to be. So are we going to do a retread of the original X-Men? Are we going to do a retread of the Claremont X-Men? Are we going to do a retread of the House of X-Men, which is you just throw everybody together? It's going to be a different group of X-Men. I guarantee you that.
We're going to have a Krakoa. To say
Krakoa's gone.
No, in the movies they're going to have a Krakoa.
Okay.
We're not going to be able to escape that. We might have a Gala. We might have this. But they'll say how, regretfully, someone said online, whatever happens close up before the film, that winds up in the films, right? They're doing this send-off with Deadpool to do all of the Fox stuff in one movie when they should have gave them a send-off before this, and they could have just done a Deadpool movie. But he's saying, hey, let's do a time travel, jump around like Back to the Future 2, which is what they did in Endgame, which they're doing in this. And then they have not the best ones. We offer this, but I don't want to, after this, we get the X-Men at the end and the back to the scenes, and we got whichever ones they want, which we're going to be who? Xavier is going to be Magneto and Wolverine, whoever else, and Kamala Khan, possibly Mystique. Because you already had success with those 4 characters, why wouldn't you use those again? Unless you're doing the original X-Men, which people are too scared to say, oh, it's 5 white people in the team, when it's like, hey, they're just fighting injustice, right? They all not all of them went through struggle, but they all decided, you know what we're going to do? You know, we're going to fight even though people hate mutants. That's the point of the story, and they were connected to the atomic age, right? That's why people who worked on it, mostly white people, unless you had that sort of thing, and you had some of the
why don't you say white Jewish people? Why don't you go the whole hog then? You know what I'm trying to say? Why stop halfway?
I'm just saying what it is.
I'm just saying why stop?
They're the ones that are working right next to us, and or say the German people that were kind of came from Nazi Germany to work on the thing,
on the
and
bomb,
that family.
The ones who came with the rockets. Then we could go all the way. Yeah,
there we go. So we got those people that are actually secretly Nazis, but now come to America. All right. So anyway, we trade off. I don't want to have the end scene where we see a mutant group and we see Kamala Khan with whichever team of X-Men or in the Gala or Krakoa.
All I hear is what I don't want to see. What I don't want to see.
I'm saying,
you got to stop being a stick in the mud and grow up. You got to be, hey, things change. You know what I'm trying to say? And things are going to change and evolve.
Up.
We have to.
That's
we
not
have
evolving.
to. We have to appreciate things as they are, not how we want them to be. We can't go back. We can't turn that clock back.
Yes,
so,
we can turn
so
the
all
clock
those
back.
Haters out there who are like, oh, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that. Bro, move on. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm not saying he's a hater, but I'm saying if the small shoe fits, put it on.
Look.
Okay.
Look at this. See, he just wants to fight. The thing of it is, you want to get to the core of the concept, and if you're deciding that we got this character, now you're gonna get me to be too harsh on the character.
How can you be harsh? She just passed away. You gotta behave yourself. Okay? You gotta be nice to the guy. Okay? You can't. That's the thing.
The Kitty Pride moment is one of the first where we get to see someone. Like when I saw it, it's like, what if the X-Men came to my house and asked me said that I was a mutant? It would have been like the best day of my life. And I don't want to see that with Kitty. I don't want to see that with Kamala Khan. And there's so much mixing and matching, not evolution. It's mixing and matching. So I'm having issue with that. And what's with this Voltron Iron Man
I'm
here?
turning it away so you cannot watch.
What is that? So ultimately,
the art here is excellent, by the way. The coloring is fantastic.
Do what you can story-wise. Someone's going to kill Xavier.
Yes.
So do what you can story-wise to get to the core of it. And you have to watch out because the most successful stuff has already been done. So you can retread that, which they're trying to do in Deadpool. And or you can just go your own way and mix and match the characters to have the maximum amount of diversity and whatnot in the book. So
What the hell type of slander is that? Mix and match all kinds of diversity. You can have a fine story, as we've seen.
it's
with
called.
characters
They
with
started
diversity.
with the mutants.
You know what I'm trying to say?
They said the
And that's
mutants.
another thing. But I'm saying she's.
They
a
said
it
the
has no
mutants.
problem. There's no issue. All I'm saying
So
is
they're
that you can have a
dealing with
diverse
it as
character.
a group, not as the X-Men, who are the feared and hated by the world they're sworn to
protect.
So that's the
Well, in the
X-Men.
Krakoa, they decided to go off that and have their
All
own
right,
planet and
let's
then
close
their own
this
place
out.
and then have things. All I'm saying is, we're talking about Fallen Friend. We're talking about.
We did.
We're talking about Ms. Marvel.
We did.
And all we're saying is that we see what the wizard himself is doing, and that it's a great idea to add her.
No, it's not a great idea.
Add her to the X-Men.
The movie, the TV show fixed her powers. She isn't like Plastic Man. She has photon powers in the TV show. So they're probably going to lean more
Onto
to
the
what was
photon.
what happened in the TV show.
Another good idea. Oh, my gosh, pi clocks do strike. All right, 3 times.
I can't.
So listen, everybody, thank you for joining us. To wrap it up as I always do, in a poignant moment with you guys, it's a great idea, Bible. Feige can do no wrong. Okay? Kamala Khan, great comic, Fallen Friend, and wow. Resurrection.
She resurrected, had an outfit.
Wow.
An outfit for her resurrection.
And because it's her intro to being an X-Men. Spinnerack.